All right, let's do this. 1 second. A super long meditation. I'm zoned. Peace. Um, so first of all, thank you for being so patient. Just it's unreal how long December took me and November, like unreal. Um, I mean, just because I was gone for a month, in the U.S. From like December 22nd to January 22nd. So, and then it's just hard to like regain the momentum after that. Could only do like 3 readings when I was there. So yeah. Anyways, it says here to look at the Squarespace. Do that right now. Mm. Okay, I see. Well, good thing your focus is very much in line with what I would talk about regardless. Um, and is that correct what I saw? Yeah. All right. Well, so 24 degrees Sag rising. Love it. Right on my moon. And let's see. We have a wow, Pluto is conjunct uh Mercury in the 12th and series in Scorpio. That's some real powerful energy, powerful spiritual energy. Yeah, loaded second house. Um, then you've got, let's see. Why is everything hiding from me? Wait, hold up. Oh, that's so funny. I have like a weird setting. Wait, no. Wait, what? Why is it not showing me the sun? Let's do this one. No. Wait, this is really, really weird. Hold up. This should be it. But then it's not showing me the sun and the moon. Okay. Edit. Save. Select. Just reload and see. Okay, so now it shows me that. Just reload your charts. Okay, now it shows me. So weird. Okay. All righty. Let's see. So, okay. You got that. eighth house, Sun in Cancer. South Node is there too. And Chiron. Back to back 29-degree Chiron. Crazy. Moon is in. Wait. What just happened? What just happened? Because before it showed Mercury in the 12th, and now obviously Mercury is somewhere around here. Yeah, it's in Leo. So what was the difference? Wait, I need to like. So 19 July 1991 was a different type of chart. Oh, okay. Somehow I see. Somehow, um, it became a heliocentric chart. So I don't know what that was, but yeah. All right. Well, so okay. So yeah. Anyways, so yeah, moon. So it's the moon. So you have a Hades moon, moon in Scorpio conjunct Pluto, and I'm just gonna kill my video, and I'm gonna share a screen. Actually, before that, one quick second. I'm gonna pause this for just a moment. All right, we are back. My allergies are still looking good. Okay. So already right off the bat, I see that we've got the Capricorn Cancer axis activated nodally and by other forces. Um, so North Node in Cap, South Node in Cancer. It's very interesting, right? So I'm a karmic astrologer. You know, I talk about the big picture. And basically, as an eighth house sun in Cancer, I mean, like we have a sun. Me and you, we have a lot in common. We have nearly exact 2 degrees away from. My son's 28 Pisces. Your son's 20, nearly 27 Cancer. So it's like a, and then your Chiron is 29 Cancer. So it's like trining. It's trining my sun, my Mercury, which is how I speak. So you're able to understand me very well. Perfect. Like it's what you'd want your astrologer to be. Um, so it's interesting, you know, that you have this eighth house sun because basically what that, you know, so I don't really go into sun signs here. You know what Cancer is about. I'll talk about like certain aspects of it. Like, you know, it's very sensitive, very private, very about the home, you know, and it can be hurt very easily. And sometimes cancers struggle once they've been hurt to, especially Scorpio moon, right? Conjunct Pluto, they can really struggle to trust again. So when you have an eighth house sun, the best way I can explain it is like um everyone, hold on a sec. So yeah, like it's kind of like a blanket statement, you know, like everyone changes, everyone goes through life and evolves, right? But to the eighth house sun person, and this is an eighth house sun person speaking, it's the evolutions are so intense, the death, rebirth, transformations that you go through, that it literally feels like you at different eras in your life. I know you're still very young, but still, at different eras in your life, and that's why you're coming to me. Like whenever someone younger than me, even though you're not that much younger, you're still younger, comes to me, like I know like this is someone who's like really about it, like um they're really they're really deep, they're really advanced soul. It's not an ego thing to me. It's just because I know that they've been, they've been like, I'm a very serious astrologer, and I think and people can sense like that I'm not going to be the fluffy fluff astrologer. And you even said so in your message, right? Of like what you wanted. So that eighth house sun, it's like there's the eras in your life are so distinct that you literally feel like a fucking actress, that you can't even recognize that version of you. And it's not always the prettiest, right? Like how these death, rebirth, transformations happen. So it makes you super, super Scorpio because you're already a Scorpio moon. So what's your sign? If you have to have one sign, it's not Cancer, it is fucking Scorpio. I charge my phone. So what the fuck was I looking for? Oh yeah. Um, with that said, with that said, um, it's I always tell people like, it can be difficult to grow up to live if you're still living in the place you grew up. Which wait, you told me. Oh yeah, you're still yeah, you're still in Florida. So it can be sometimes awkward for people they have sons. Awkward, difficult because it's like they grow so much, and sometimes they're the friends they grew up with, if they're not on that same growth kind of streak. And yeah, you can have really, really good friends, right? But like sometimes, and I've just seen this a lot, you know, people try to kind of bring that older version of you out, um, and it's not good, right? And it can become awkward when you're growing a lot and you're evolving and getting deeper and deeper into your own shadow, and the people you may have grown up with or whatever haven't done that, and they miss that old version of you, and they kind of almost become like bad for your growth, right? So the same can be said with romantic relationships, anything, right? um so with chiron on your sun, in short, you're meant to be a healer, um but you really also go through lots of, you were always meant to go through lots of pain. um and basically, like, at 29 degrees, it's like that's like the master energy, right? For chiron. And when I look at the south node story, I'm like, okay, well, it's ruled by the moon. So oh my god, it's crazy. I have this thing where it's like I I don't always go, and I literally just saw 333 as I said this. So I'm like, damn. But I don't always go like exactly in order. Like I do, but let's say like I have like, a few more left from December. Like based like, and there's one chart, then like, no, I don't have it in me to do that chart tonight, you know, or I don't really feel like, you know. So it's just interesting to me that like the last chart I did, there's a similar past life story, at least from this standpoint of, and let me see if there's 18, 18. Just like, of being, you know, this healer, right? And most likely in past lives having to have hid your healer abilities, your mystical abilities, whatever it is, right? So there's still that feeling to, you know, more than likely of, you know, and it could show itself as yeah, as a fear, especially around family, if it's in Chiron or in Cancer, excuse me, um, to show that depth and to show that mystic, right? Um, but with that said, you know, with the moon in the 12th, the Hades moon, right, which is when you have a Scorpio moon conjunct Pluto, it just makes it uh it just makes it like extra Scorpio. A lot gets done kind of in the, you know, it can make some kind of hermit, you know, where a lot gets done behind the scenes. And it's just the ultimate like shadow worker and healer, right? Um, but also it can represent, especially in the 12th house, like one of the deepest mother wounds possible, right? Um, so a lot of times there's like very deep-seated emotional issues, and they lead you to these very transformative experiences. Lots of introspection, you know, and a need to get deeper, right? A need to experience kind of, yeah, the deeper sides of life, right? A need to just understand. Um, so yeah, lots of emotional depth and yeah, like intensity. And it karmically really pushes you to want to heal yourself. A lot of times when I talk to people with this, it's like a overly domineering mother, very sometimes to the point of like psychological abuse. Um, and it can bring up lots of issues related to control, power, manipulation. And there's a huge responsibility to channel it in a positive way, because um, the negative and positive are just so extreme, right? Um, because like what can happen is that the like it makes you extremely just like emotionally powerful, like just in general, and like extremely emotionally intelligent, and very psychic, very intuitive, all that. And you know, if there was a situation, because like 12th house moon, typically the mother wasn't like present, whether it was like physically or spiritually, what you know, it's hard to know. Um, so you know, the goal is to surrender. It's like full surrender. But what can happen is that if the wound isn't, um, you know, if the wound isn't healed, which this is reflecting, you know, something very karmic, right? So we choose our parents to reflect our the karma we want to work with, right? So it's most likely your mom. Moon is usually the mom, not always, but you know, it's meant to kind of like speak to it's like the impetus for you to do the shadow work, right? So yeah, there can it can make people kind of like imitate the parents in their in their relationships, and there can be like this fear of abandonment. It's also like, you know, this placement is you know, gives the potential for actual abandonment, or at least, abandonment on like a psychological level to have happened, right? So, and it can be real or imagined, it's 12th house. So that can go into relationships and make the person like ultra controlly, because there's this deep fear of abandonment. So they really, really need to define power, right? To find like the correct definition for power, um, that is based off of that internal ability to regenerate. Something fucked up happens, or just like, a life circumstance, is what it is, and you just bounce back, right? And that's real power, right? Real power is within, and real power is the courage to take responsibility for whatever it is, to not blame, and to just change, to make whatever changes you need to make, and to just yeah, just not resist, and to just go into that shadow, to allow those parts of you that are no longer serving you to just die and have faith. Because Pluto in the 12th house by itself is literally the deepest, like it's speaking to the deepest spiritual faith, right? The metaphor I give is that in this lifetime you're trying to jump from the material world. Saturn is ruled by rocks, so it's a metaphor. Saturn is, you're like jumping off a cliff into the endless ocean of Neptune. Cliff, rock, Saturn. Saturn represents like, the material reality, the patriarchy, whatever, right? Just the physical world. And then Neptune is like that endless divine energy of oneness and compassion and love. So high spirituality, high mysticism, all that stuff, right? So that's really what you're being asked to do. So you see how there's that polarity between like people who just have like jolly, 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 perfect lives, right? Um, they don't necessarily get the chance to have this deep of like a spiritual leap, right? Um, so it's one of those things that can feel like in life, some things feel like they're curses, but then they become your greatest gift. So, but yeah, like being a Scorpio moon, Hades moon, there's lots of emotions that run deep under the surface and a lot that's unconscious, right? So you need to go into your own personal underworld. Um, and that's where you find the information that leads to the transformation. Um, like a Hades moon person is a very deep person. There's no chance. They're not surface level at all. Impossible, right? Doesn't mean that you can't, because you have a, that Jupiter ninth house, and I don't have your, like, I'm just kind of, yes, spitballing, like, I don't have your chart right in front of me, but like I said, dude. But yeah, like, it's not that you can't do that, but you're very deep, right? I mean, your sun is in the 8th, your moon's in the 12th. Like, come on, those are the two deepest houses, right? And they're both in water signs. So yeah, it's crazy. And the sun's conjunct Chiron, the moon's conjunct Pluto. So that is the ultimate person who is meant on both levels, father and mother, most likely, I would guess. But the thing is that are they trining? They're trining by element. So it wouldn't necessarily speak to a bad relationship between them. Um, but that there would most likely be some level um of like big time karma attached to both of those relationships and the impact they have on you. And sometimes it's like I don't want to be like this person, so I take this opposite route. And sometimes it's actual trauma, you know. And I think you got the follow up. Am I mistaken? Yeah, you did. So we can definitely talk about this. You'll have to remind me about all this stuff, because I will forget. Um, So yeah, really, this is like the shadow worker. Like I said, like this is the placement of like the real shadow workers, healers. So I want to really go deep into this because it's so important. And I feel like this is like what the info you wanted. Um, so there's a big need to cut cords and to not hold on to negativity with certain people. You even said that, didn't you? Yeah, you literally said relationships needing to be broken surrounding it. Yeah. Um, yeah. So that's very interesting. But there's definitely past life trauma, um, linked with the mother arc the I guess you could say like the nurturing mothering archetype. And most likely to most likely also with your relationship with your current mother. Um, but yeah, really, and if it's not that, it's just like, to the idea of nurturing, to the idea of safety, to the idea of, um, being cared for and all that, right? So, um, it's very, very interesting. But oftentimes when I see this, it's like the individual felt abandoned by their mother, and because it's Scorpio, it could have been that when you were conceived, like there's some drama around there, some negativity. It could have been like there could be some perinatal trauma, like where you like there's like something really going on in the mother's life during the pregnancy, and then even like a really difficult pregnancy. I would be surprised at all. So yeah. So um yeah, and it's very like it's something, it's a wound, it's a wound that's carried through the bloodline. And it's kind of, I think of it as like healing the divine feminine, like at the deepest possible level, right? um because when you combine Pluto in the moon, it's like just the person who is unstoppable and who has like I said, you can never break them. They are so strong, and they are such amazing healers. Um, and they care so much about, here's Esme, your water sign, double water, so I know that you like her. He's also a Cancer. And you guys have a lot in common. She's a Sag moon, and she Esme. And she's a Cancer sun, Pisces rising. So she says hi. She just said hi with her eyes. Good girl. Um, anyways, what was I saying? Yeah. So yeah, like healing wounds within the blood, breaking that generational trauma in your family, right? This is a huge signifier of that. So we can even speak about like fear carried through the womb, generation after generation, right? Because that space passes on trauma. um so yeah, it's really related to what I was saying. And a lot of times, hmm, beyond, yeah, I mean, like, so like it can bring up issues related to feeling safe, like the root chakra, especially growing up, right? um and usually like the child comes into the world feeling like the world is not a safe place. um and it comes from the womb having not felt so safe, right? um yeah, so definitely, like, if there was like if there wasn't a traumatic birth or just something along that line, I'd be surprised based on what I'm seeing. Because like it could literally be like something so karmically deep, like fighting to not incarnate again, to not feel pain again, right? Um, so yeah, there's this need to kind of like cut the cord, because like usually the Hades moon child clings to their mother a lot, but it's in the 12th house, so it's like usually the 12th house moon is the mother that was like, at least not meeting the needs, right? Um, so there's a need to like cut whatever, like not cut off the relationship, but cut like and update the cord, right? Um, so hmm, yeah, I mean, besides that, like I'm just thinking like, um, yeah, there could be like even like a karmic trauma bond with the mother, or just that the mother brings up. Um, so yeah. And people, you might be wondering, like, is it a lesson I asked for? Yes, even though, because as a very evolved soul, you know, it is a lesson in this, this lifetime you asked for, right? Um, but there could have been some kind of resistance. Um, so yeah. Um, so besides that, it's really like as karmic as it gets when it comes to releasing past traumas. Um, you know, past lives, where you as an eighth house south node experience a lot of emotional pain, a lot of emotional trauma, and you're carrying that into this lifetime, right? And it's being brought up by the mother, brought up by the early nurturing childhood, right? And the key obviously is to release that negative karma. So that's where spirituality comes in. That's where developing that spiritual relationship with yourself, with service, right? That is the best possible way for a 12th house Hades moon. Is you're almost meant to be a healer because you have Chiron, your son. Your son's your identity. Chiron is the wounded healer. Um, so yeah, it's very important. But I think people with the Hades moon, like, they just get so tough so young. Um, like that when they become around the age you're at, Saturn return-ish, it's like they're so tough, like nothing's gonna bother. Like they can get past anything, right? Whatever you choose to break through in this life, like whatever you put your mind to, like that, and that's the essence of that Hades moon, right? Um, it's also very honest, right? Scorpio is very honest. It's very intense. So there's like a real need, like with friends and with people. You need people who are also evolving. You need people who are super trustworthy, who you can like tell all your darkness to at any time, and they will listen and they won't judge you, right? So you need very deep people around you, and it goes for relationships as well. You need to be heard, like truly, truly heard. And Um, yes, me show you. Yeah. Say something. Say something, Yasmin. Say something. Say something. Okay, that was her message. Um, so yeah, yeah, this is like I don't know, like this like I say it in a lot of my readings, but like I don't know if there's anything more like of like a generational curse breaker than this exact placement, right? You're the one who's doing the work to change the karmic and ancestral patterns, right? So imagine you having the weight of like so many generations, and like the work that you do is like literally changing all of that for the future, like who knows how many generations. Um, so yeah. Um, hmm. So yeah, getting in touch with like with the body, like yoga, somatic therapy, very key, and meditation. Because remember, it's a root chakra, so you're really trying to find safety within yourself. That's the key. Um, being of service could be your life purpose, being a healer, but also, and these two go hand in hand, to heal yourself, to become deeply, deeply spiritual, then it just naturally happens, right? Um, but yeah, like energy healing, whatever it is, right? Just working on deepening that relation that spiritual relationship with yourself. So um yeah, it's very magical. Um and it's just like, yeah, it's like a lot of my clients have, you know, some variation of of this kind of eighth house Scorpio Plutonian energy, but this is like the most, this is like a double, triple dose, right? Um, so yeah, it's very interesting. So yeah, you're really here to, yeah, really really like explore your unconscious mind, right? Whether it's through, yeah, like all these things I mentioned, you know, dream work because it's 12th house could be another really good one. Um, but there's like a lot of hidden emotional patterns in beliefs, right? So it's just like you have to go within yourself to find them, kind of like that Jungian type of style. Um, so yeah, like gain that awareness of like how it shows up in your life is really important. Um, and um, you know, therapy, like just like healing in general is just really important because you confront, like just like being able to confront the traumas and the wounds that hold you back, identify them, right? Because they can be very, very unconscious. Um, but like lots of self-reflection, you know, as a 12th house moon, you'll spend a lot of time alone. You'll need a lot of fucking time alone. Like because you are such a sponge of energy for energy, right? Negative and positive. That's why your environment is super important. Um, so you know, you're I would definitely journal if you don't already. Take time each day to kind of contemplate your inner world. Um, and that's how you can gain clarity. 12th house, Neptune, it's through also, you know, filming yourself, right? It can be very powerful because Neptune rules cameras. Um, but overall, like one thing I see with like this kind of general chart is that there could have been like lots of shame, things that brought you shame that you did when you were still evolving. You're always evolving, right? But like it's really important to learn to like have self-compassion, to forgive yourself, to let go of those things, right? Um, everything that got you to where you are at this very moment was meant to happen, right? Um, so learning patience and well, I guess it would be, yeah, patience for yourself, and self-compassion are massive. And that's meditation can be a great path through that if done correctly. Um, but yeah, overall, like it's just like the most powerful placement for emotional transformation and deep shadow work healing, right? So you're really here for a big ass reason, you know? And that's why it's important to be around the right people in the right environment, because you probably sensed it. I don't know if this is your first reading or not. You probably sense like, there's something like important about this incarnation if you believe in reincarnation, which I imagine you do. So there is. There's a really big one. Um, so yeah. There's also like a deep connection to past lives. That's one really cool thing. And some people who I've noticed with this, they have like a psychic connection with their mother. Like it's fucking insane. Some of the stories I've heard. Um, but yeah, like um just yeah, I mean there's like, I mean obviously you're getting this reading, but like the esoteric, anything related to like the underground, underworld, death, anything like that is very, very like appealing and healing. But yeah, you're the one. You're the chosen one to heal the generational curse. And with that, you have like you have the power of your ancestors, these very sacred like psychic powers that you can tap into, right? Um, so it's very interesting. And as I said earlier, you've been to the underworld and back, metaphorically and physically in past lives. So it's like, um, you really can speak from that place, right? Um, but yeah, overall, like just Scorpio moons feel so deeply. They can have such mood swings, and um in love, like they can be, just they need to not be so controlling, and they can come on really, really strong too and become really obsessed. And it's not just about love, right? That can be about many things. Um, so yeah, so very, very massive part, and that's why I want to spend such a lot of a massive amount of time on that. Now, your sun is also opposite um Saturn. So your sun in Cancer in the eighth house, you're meant to go, like I said, through these death rebirth transformations that aren't always so fun and pretty. It's conjunct Chiron, so that's speaking to the father wound typically. Um, but it's that same wound. Lots of eighth house Chirons. There's uh, a lot of times there's sexual trauma, not always. Um, but it could also just be feeling inadequate sexually. Um, and also just lots of sensitivity to like the undercurrents of the world, which you will have. Like you really are in touch with kind of the overall energy of where you live and just the world in general and spiritual energies, right? You're really, really tapped in. So if you like really make that a focus, like your potential is fucking insane. Um, but yeah, just the fact that Chiron's conjunct the sun, I think like a lot of the family healing, once again, like, on both sides, like is a huge role, right? Because you can feel very unsure of yourself and your own family. I also have this placement, and the biggest kind of pain is around kind of the family, in the childhood. Um, so the Sun Chiron conjunction, usually yeah, it's like the early childhood wound, emotional, physical, it's hard to tell, psychological, um, and usually like it's very difficult for you to express yourself, because because of just being so sensitive to the pain of other people, right? Um, so it makes one a very, very just caring person because they've been through it and they know what it's like. And being a double water already would give you that just empathy and compassion and intuition and just, yeah. Um, but the thing is to not beat yourself up, because sometimes that's what like very watery people do, is that they like something bad happens to them and then they just punish themselves, right? A lot of times they're unconscious. So yeah, just this very intuitive healer ability to understand other people's pain of all sorts, and to be energetic, emotional, psychological, whatever type of healer. um so the fact that wait, oh duh, oh yeah, 'cause 26 degrees. So the opposition, I guess, yes. I mean, it's not in, so your Saturn is in Aquarius, but Sun opposite Saturn, it just speaks to like more about the father, right? And how like your Saturn return, which you just kind of finished, um this is like we're probably where you're really really starting to feel like yourself more than ever before, right? um and basically sun opposite Saturn, you feel like there's these like I always call them like boulders in front of your path, like you're trying to get here and there's just massive boulder, right? um and usually it's like a very strict father figure growing up, very imposing, um just feeling rejected also in your sense of identity and self being rejected. And because you're eighth house sun, uh there can be identity issues and there can be like difficulty pinning down kind of who you are, right? um with the water. um but then wow, you're rising and the ruling planet is really interesting, very exalted Jupiter in the ninth house in Leo. Um, but yeah, so a lot of people with that, it's like they feel these restrictions, and it's just like until like around their Saturn return, it's like they take two steps forward, universe, three steps back. And self-expression can make them very shy. Like they like Saturn, the planet of karma, is limiting them, and they feel frustrated. But then they become so resilient because they have to work so hard to get past these setbacks. But then after 30, those setbacks go away, but they're still left with that determination, right? So the challenge is to create your own rules and beliefs and then build your life based off of those, right? But there can be lots of fear pushing beyond the restrictions that come up, right? There can be lots of fears that come up. Um, so even if this stuff happened as a kid, you continue as an adult to feel like this sense of restriction, rejection, and yeah. So it's really like the Saturn return where a lot will have opened up, and since it's a third house Saturn, um that can speak to um the Saturn return. And I would, even though you had your Saturn return, I would highly suggest adding what nearly everyone does, which is they get this reading, follow up. You already have follow up. That's the hour where we talk just about this. and then adding the current astrology. And if you want, and I would only like charge a little bit more for that, the Saturn return chart. Even though you passed it, I can still pull a chart for the Saturn return. But the current astrology reading, it's usually around 380, 400. I forget what I have it as, but I'd be willing to do it for 260. If you want to include the Saturn return, 280 is fine, whatever. And basically that becomes, instead of like a 1 hour follow-up, which you already have, it becomes 3 hours total on Zoom. And it's not a long wait like this was. It's literally like we find my next open date and we make shit happen. All right. Anyways, so let's see. Yeah, so that's really, really interesting. But it can be very, very hard to leave the family behind, or not leave them behind. You know what I'm trying to say, like to kind of like leave and move to a different place and so forth, right? Um, but sometimes it's really important to have the right boundaries. But ultimately, you know, we look and there's not really. I mean, you have moons. You don't have that, like your moon conjunct Pluto is enough, right? But besides that, in the square with Jupiter, it's pretty good aspects for the moon. Um, but yeah, just like the extreme highs and lows, like the need to balance those is super. And finding like a creative outlet. That's another thing I didn't mention. Like that's very, very important. So speaking of that, your rising is very, very different energy than what I've been talking about. It's Sagittarius, and Jupiter, your ruling planet, is in its best house, the ninth house, its natural house, and it's in Leo, which is the sign that Jupiter. Well, I mean, it can be so it's very interesting, right? Because this is like kind of creating a split in you, where one side of you is very, very deep and very, very introverted, and the other side is very outgoing, very adventurous. So it's like, how can you feed both mouths? But basically, like Sag risings, like life is just an adventure. You're here to learn. You're here to experience. Um, and yeah, it just kind of adds a different dimension than what I've spoken about. But I think that these experiences, right, whether it's traveling, learning different philosophies, or philosophical outlooks on life, it's like you're here to really find that greater truth. And to have Jupiter in Leo, conjunct Mercury in Leo, that's like, Jupiter makes everything bigger, right? And in the ninth house, it gives you lots of luck or good fortune when you're traveling to different cultures. Um, and it makes you just this natural person on this insatiable search for the meaning of life, right? For true truth. So yeah, it's a really, really great place to have your Jupiter. Um, and it makes one a great teacher, a great student, and someone who's just always expanding, and open-minded typically. And in Leo, Jupiter and Leos are interesting because I think in your chart with all your water, like if you were like a lot of Gemini, for example, like I'd be like, that can create some like an energy that's like too much, right? But Jupiter and Leo, I think in your case, just would make you very benevolent, a giver, fun loving. It adds a little bit of spark. Like, the other stuff I mentioned is quite dark, quite intense, right? But this is very, very light. So it's kind of a nice little balance. And it's very good for like finding that creative outlet, and it's very good for children. People who have Jupiter Leo love children. And they're always searching for a new type of creative expression. And because it's ninth house, I think that it would give you just this really, really, and it's next to your vertex and your Mercury, so it's really through like to have like you're yeah, well actually yeah, um ultimately, like you are looking within yourself, but then also looking outside yourself, right? And in Plastus, I know that this would be a 8th house. I do whole signs, right? Um, But having Jupiter connected to the vertex, it's just showing that like through your doorway to higher awareness is through getting in touch with your inner child, right? Because I even say this, but the Pluto, actually no, never mind. NVM, but like yeah, like there's just a whole like your part of fortune's in the fifth house, your IC's in the fifth house, so it's like incorporating fun into your life is really important and can be hard. You know, the Mars Venus in Virgo, right? That is another very serious energy. Typically, I mean, Mars conjunct Venus. I'm just gonna say it because you know it's something I've noticed, been told. Usually very like sexual and very. Let's just say they get good remarks. I don't know. I'll just say this shit from their partners or whatever. But you know, it's just like very high expectations in love, you know. And it makes one very, very, yeah, very passionate, charming, like a kind of like a, I'm trying to use the right word, like it's like Mars is your action, right? Your assertiveness function. So Venus gives some kind of like Venusian like beauty to that. And then Venus is, yeah, it's Venus, right? It's like kind of your it's like it's that very feminine quality, your love language, blah blah blah. And Mars gives some kind of oomph to that, right? So they kind of both kind of push each other up. But yeah, usually very high expectations in relationships, which can lead to disappointments, which in Virgo, 1,000%. Because I mean, like Virgo is the sign of the perfectionist, right? Um, but you know, overall, like, you know, when we really think about you know, Venus and Mars and Virgo, I've always looked at it as like a difficult placement, but like it really depends on the chart, right? Um, because for you, it could be looked at as quite a good thing because it gives you some earth energy. You have the water, you have the fire, you don't have the air, but you've got some earth. So yeah. Um, and your north node's in earth, right? So you're trying to become to kind of like in this lifetime, you're here to become your own metaphoric father, and your north node's conjunct Neptune. So you're here to literally be um to literally be your own, like I said, metaphoric um father, to not have this past life tendency, not go into this past life tendency of like overly depending on other people, um, to only depend on yourself. And then the Neptune on the North Node is speaking further to this need to, in this lifetime, to life purpose energy to go into mysticism, to go into compassion, the 12th house Pluto stuff I talked about, right? Diving into the infinite ocean. So the polarity point of Pluto, the sixth house, is Virgo, is about the step, you know, the steps, the little things, the day by day things that it takes to get there. Like, you know, for example, meditation, you know, journaling, like whatever it is to have emotional, psychological, everything all, you know, physical, like all of those things in check. Um, to schedule your meditation sessions for when you're, you know, these types of things, right? Not to be like a, yeah, and so this is what I'm saying, is the fact that you have this Virgo Mars sometimes that can be seen as a very petty placement, right? But it's unaspected too. Well, and it's conjunct Venus, but yeah. And Uranus, where are you? Yeah. So it really um hmm, interesting. But yeah, I mean like Mars and Virgo can sometimes be like a little bit of a flow killer energy, but it's also like if I had to find an accountant, I would want them to have like Mars and Virgo because it can make someone very organized. But they can be very perfectionist. And if they, especially if they had like what you like a very strict father, mother, whatever, they can really they can really project that onto their partners. That goes kind of back to that higher standards thing I said. I'm stretching out my back. I have like a thing behind it. Um, so I just there you go. So yeah, like Mars and Virgo in in this 10th house is actually really good for career. And it's I think like the one of the keys for you is to lean into that Sagittarius rising and that Jupiter energy. Um, because things can get too serious. Um, but then your part of fortune is in Aries in the 5th house, which like part of fortune is like where you are you at your best. It's like it's not a planet. It's a point that's used it's calculated through the sun, moon, and ascendant. And it just lands somewhere, right? It's like sun plus moon minus ascendant. I forgot the exact calculation. I don't really care. It's different for nights and day charts, but the point is that it lands somewhere random, and it's very important because it's like kind of your flow state, your place of flow. So and it speaks and it always says something, right? Like mine's right on my midheaven, right? So my flow place is like in the spotlight, like when I'm doing things for the world, when I'm like my career, right? That's where, and then it's also where you can attract kind of luck and abundance too. That's more Jupiter, but you get my point, right? So to have it in Aries, it's like in the 5th house of Leo, it's like you are at your best flow state when you are creating and when you are independent, right? So there's this theme of independence, right? And I wonder how much of it has to do with the need to like create boundaries with family, right? I'm just, you know, I'm not saying that as a fact. I'm just throwing that out there. Um, but um, because like when you're healing, when you have such an important mission, it's like it's very you have to be in the right environment for healing. If you're around unhealed people, it's gonna be very difficult to heal, right? So that Aries energy is just about like just like taking things into your own hands, being like I know I need to do this. You'll thank me later when it makes sense. Your spirit will thank me, even if your human ego self doesn't like it now. Your spirit thanks me because I'm doing the right thing, right? And I literally like wanted to like look up for like divine confirmation, and I just saw 2-2 again. So like, come on. Um, your ascendant's really close to the galactic center, so you can literally just be like a source of just galactic spiritual information. Um, Esme also has her Venus there, right? There her Venus is? No, your moon. Her moon's there. Yeah. and she's a complete starseed. She's never incarnated in form before. First time. Kind of crazy, isn't it? And you can kind of tell it's a little bit awkward for you, but you're still so cute and so good at it. You're so talented. Mm. But yeah, so leaning into that Sag energy is important. Understand that like with Virgo, like nothing, oftentimes like nothing is nicotine or yeah, I mean, yeah. So basically that's the thing is like the need to find that self-love and that self-compassion to love yourself for your imperfections as well, so that you don't project your imperfections onto partners. And Venus, I love how this thing is broken. I have to like literally like set up like freaking um covers on there. It's super fun. But yeah, so Venus Virgo is not really interested in relationships, especially with your Juno in. So your Juno is conjunct your North Node too. So also that's speaking about how your relationships are going to be very very faded. You're like very important ones, and it's very important for you to keep your independence in general, right? Um, because like an eighth house South Node in Cancer can have that tendency to kind of like be the baby, or stay too close to home, to rely too much on other people for power. And it's conjunct Sun, so you could have been like royalty or something like come from a very very high place and come in this life with some type of like entitlement, right? Um, where there's like the soul is used to just have like having servants and having things just given to them, right? Not every lifetime, but like what you're dealing with now. So yeah, um, Venus, yeah. So like Mars conjunct Venus and Virgo. I mean, like basically, you know, Venus in Virgo is not interested in just like it's about like and with the Juno and Capricorn, it's like double energy about relationships have, and it goes with your Scorpio moon too. So it's actually all very 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 in flow. Like Scorpio moon, like Hades moon, it's like it's like less friends but better friends, right? Um, and very good at seeing through people. Um, Mars, so the conjunction, and just like the Venus and Virgo, and it's like you don't want to mess around relationships. You're not here to like play around. Like you want something that's gonna work or not, you know. And sometimes people with this can be have too high of expectations for their partner, like I've said many times. Um, but then it's like you have like so they can get with like it could be like very very like with all this like very let's say obsessed with someone from the get-go, and then once you realize their human imperfections, become very disillusioned, right? um but your relationships will be very intense. There'll be a place where you can heal a lot, but it's really important to not project the stuff from that came from the relationship with like the father mother early nurturing stuff, childhood in general, right? To project that onto relationships, right? Because there can be like potential for like being very controlling, um and just like such a massive desire for like love and affection and just coming on too strong sometimes, right? Is a potential. um so yeah, it's just like this huge level of intensity that sometimes it's hard for a partner to cope with, right? But it definitely makes like finding, I have this too, mine's an Aquarius, like finding new partners is very easy, right? And it creates like a very like kind of almost like magnetic level of like attractiveness. So it's good for popularity in general too, also, and it's very helpful in career. I said it's in your 10th house, so it's really good. So good for, and also it's really, really good for having like just very, uh, you know, once you find what really matters to you, just being able to just go and get there. Goal directed energy, which is your North Node in Capricorn, is like it's asking you to do it on your own in this life, right? Second house, it's asking you to not become like to become very independent, right? Um, to have that strong work ethic, and honor is the highest energy of Capricorn, right? Honor and authority, but not in the power tripping way. So yeah, like how like with this conjunction, it's like how you relate to the opposite sex is really, really dependent on the parental relationships, right? So if you're heterosexual, it would be with your dad. Um, so yeah. Um, but overall, Venus in the 10th is a blessing for career, and but you also have to watch out for like overworking and perfectionism in all things you do. Um, and just being really hard on yourself. So like looking at like your self-limiting beliefs, looking at your self-talk, all that stuff, right? Um, but yeah, it's very practical, Venus and Virgo. It's like very practical. Like they like to be, the love language is typically like like the little things they do. They like to be recognized for that. Um, and with the Scorpio moon, it's just like the need to be heard, and to be understood and to be able to truly, truly trust, because like, you'll be a very loyal person, extremely loyal person, right? So you expect the same. Um, yeah. Um, I feel like Mars and Virgo people don't don't like to be criticized. I don't either, unless it's like, oh, I don't mind if it's constructive. I actually like it, but they sometimes have to like learn to like accept that. Um, and yeah, like they just kind of get to where they need to get to, like, and especially in 10th house, very ambitious, and there can be this like battle to the top in your career. And this goes back to goes to the Black Moon Lilith, which is in um, Capricorn. So that would speak to like um kind of like you could say like the low, like basically like it's not a planet, it's like a self-defeating part of your chart. It's like you at your lowest vibration, but it can be transformed. So in Capricorn, I always see it as like someone who will do anything to get to the top, right? And the second house who might care too much about the money and validation, that type of way, external. So it's like about really finding, and it goes to your North Node, like that internal validation, right? Which comes from that spiritual relationship with yourself. And then all the romantic relationships mimic that perfectly. So now that the Saturn turns past and you can truly find your voice and speak from that authentic place, it's really important to have the and that's where I think journaling and having some kind of like written or spoken outlet is really important. Um yeah, that becomes huge. But you know, with with that placement, um, so with that placement, I'm gonna pull something up real quick. Where is it? So, but there can be like a fear of neglect, right? Um, and like not being like acknowledged and recognized for the things you do. And which can lead to like trying to like, yeah, control situations, and feel empowered from doing that, right? And just like dominate and control others. Um, and it can really push people away. So the integration is like learning to, you know, so you have no air in your chart. Air is about, you know, being able to communicate well with other people, just to think from other people's perspective, and, you know, get good with communication, right? So doing breath work, having no air in your chart, you should definitely be doing breath work. Getting into like nice nature places, zone areas where you get really fresh oxygen, all that. Um, but yeah, just like learning how to let other people take the lead, you know, delegate, be diplomatic, um, and not need to like control, right? So that is, and then the magic happens where you know, everything, yeah, you do get really noticed, I guess you could say, or not noticed, you know, you get recognized. Um, but yeah, the second house is interesting because you have Uranus and Neptune there also. So um the way I see that with the North Node is like that if there's like an over obsession with, because it's found in the eighth house, could speak to an inheritance, um, or being able to like benefit from other people's resources. Um, whether it's like through marriage or whether, you know, whatever, through the line of work, like for example, like investment banking would be where you're working with someone else's money. But overall, like with Uranus there, it can make finances go up and down, right? But when you're able to have this real um like inner values, so it's like the North Node the second house can be looked at as like a quest for you know, finding your own set of personal values that are true to you, right? Um, and really, like I said, finding um your own way in life, independent of societal conditioning and family conditioning and all that. Because if there's like an over obsession with the material, then it will just like go up and down, and it can be difficult. Um, like sudden changes in income, money here one moment and gone the next, like that type of thing, right? Um, it is really good for being really creative when it comes to like ideas around like how to make money. Um, but yeah, like it's really about valuing your own true kind of authentic self, right? And then having almost like a moral, like a I don't know, just like a very like a moral code with boundaries, you know, that like you live off of those, right? Like um so that's really important. And speaking, I spoke earlier about like the potential for kind of what I call it, um I guess like not seeing yourself that clearly. identity crisis, you could say. So Neptune's second house can create that too, where there's like an unrealistic assessment of your own self-worth. And there's a huge need, once again, to link like spirit to not to like with spirit and the material, right? To find that balance, right? Because second house North Node, like in Capricorn, like yeah, you are here to make something of yourself in the material, you know. Second house is about money, and Capricorn is too, right? But not be like over obsessed with it. And when you do that, like it pushes away some of like the difficulty that can come from that. So yeah, that's important. Yeah, so I'm interested to hear about things with the family because I feel like Chiron Cancer, sometimes it's like there's like yeah, there's like a level of boundaries, like, and I don't mean not having a relationship with the family. I just mean like it really, really depends on a lot of factors, right? But at the same time, you know, Sun conjunct Chiron, yeah, it's literally like Sun's your identity, Chiron, yeah, it's you're meant to be a healer, as I said. And then you know you can really speak the truth, you know, like the Mercury Jupiter conjunction in the ninth makes you really, really someone who in Mercury, yeah, it's just only conjunct Jupiter. So that just creates that, yeah, that thirst for knowledge, for wisdom, big ideas. Now with the square of the moon, you know, you have to be realistic with those. And usually it's really, really good for education, whether it's like self-education or just like actual education, like in universities. But let's see. Why is it not telling me that? Because yeah, it does square Pluto, but it doesn't. It's not telling me that. But yeah, so with the Jupiter and Moon square, it can create, yeah, just like the need to like learn self-discipline, but then you have that Virgo energy, which will help with that a lot. And yeah, just being realistic with like ideas and not jumping on things too fast, but having the Virgo energy once again will make you analytical and sometimes even like overthinking things, right? Um, let's see. But it makes you really, really observant. Like you can just like see everything, you know? So there's like you have that on like the physical level, and then on like the spiritual level too. So that is just like such a crazy combination. Um, yeah. So mm, yeah, definitely something with like foreign cultures. But like yeah, like really like the more that you can dive into your inner child, that kind of playful part of you, just go with the flow, Sag, you know, like that's where there's the greatest healing. Um, and just your relationship with money, you know, that's important too. Um, mm, but yeah, like I said, you know, you have to watch out for that potential to just like escape into your fantasy world and not deal with reality, you know. The crab crawling back in its shell once it's hurt. Um, Now Venus has a nice interesting trine with Uranus. Um, which is interesting because like a lot of the love energy is around consistency and all that. But when Venus trines Uranus, well, first of all, it's really a highly intuitive placement. Um, but there's a need for like excitement in the relationships, right? Um, very, very like intellectually stimulating. Um, like, you know, someone who you can really just like talk to about a lot of different subjects and really learn a lot from. Potentially, you know, with someone who's older, if it's Juno in Capricorn, at least more mature. Um, but it's interesting because usually, well, it's very good for like allowing some like um allowing like your partner or whoever, you know, partner like to it's very good at giving, makes you very, very good at like giving space and freedom, and then also wanting that for yourself in a sense, right? So it's like wanting that closeness, but then um you know, still not wanting to be just like fully submerged, because once again, remember, you're trying to be your own like person, and you need to have that time alone, right? Like time alone for you is sacred. That's like where you find so much of your deeper realizations, and you have to have that. You should have that very deep kind of dialogue with yourself, you know. That's important. um mhm. Yeah, definitely a very analytical mind. um you know, you can be very um Leo Mercury's can be very proud of you know, what they've discovered, and with the Jupiter, you know, it's good. It's just like, you know, the need to kind of like watch out to not push your opinions too much on other people, your worldviews and the things you believe in, and just know like everyone has their own kind of way of coming to conclusions, right? I mean, of what truth is. Um, yeah, yeah, your descendants in Gemini, so it kind of speaks also to like, yeah, that um kind of wanting someone who's not, yeah, who can add some fun and some intellectual stimulation, because a Sag, you know, rising person is gonna, you know, want an adventure partner, right? So it could be someone foreign, someone older, who knows? And I think you said you're married. Um, and then yeah, Ceres in Libra in the 11th. So that's like really good for a lot of people with that. I feel like their friends are like their family. Like they like they really have like like they're the person like in the friend group that like people come to kind of like talk about things, you know. Um, and they feel very protected, you know, by their friends. Or at least that's what they seek, right? Um, and in Libra, you know, I think it's just like feeling nurtured when you're in, you know, very peaceful relationships. When like your loved ones create like an atmosphere of peace, an atmosphere of balance. So yeah, that's very important. And yeah, it also just kind of gives like, yeah, that need for yeah, for nice equal relationships. All right, I had to pause for a second. So let's get back to this. So, um, so yeah, we understand the main themes. I would just say like, yeah, just it's those risks that that lead to the expansion, you know, that lead to the different opportunities, whether it's traveling, learning. Um, but yeah, really like when it comes to values, you know, that's massive in this chart. Um, it's a huge indication that if there's too much of a value set on money and material, that it will backfire. So the more that can be balanced, um, almost like a spiritual relationship to money, um, where there's like honor in the way that money has been achieved, you know, that you really like feel that high kind of Capricorn level of proud towards, you know, that's important. So let's open up these babies. My eyes are inside. Well, I do not smoke, in case anyone has ever wondered. Okay, so moon. Oh yeah, you have the moon on Osaka. Um, all right, talked about the galactic center. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I just think that having part of fortune on the IC is just like the ultimate, just by you going into the into the wounds, into creating that, you know, that spiritual relationship with yourself, as I keep saying, um, through, you know, that inner child, Leo, authentic self-expression, um, you know, like that's where the real flow is. So yeah, it's just like also like yeah, using your own willpower to achieve your goals, right? And just really being standing up for yourself and being your own person. Um, okay. So you have a wealth star in your descendant, so that could, you know, relate to getting, you know, to wealth, whether it's through marriage or just in general. Descendant usually is other, but with the stars, sometimes it's not like that. Um, Fortuna on your Jupiter, so that's one of the asteroids it's about. Yeah, fortune, fame, all that stuff. So, um, yeah, that's in the cards potentially, especially when it's on your Jupiter close to your Mercury. Like, you know, it could be through teaching, through healing, um, teaching what you've learned through your journey. you saw what I was staring at, you'd be like, wow, how do you do it? It's like all these numbers bunched together. Okay, there's nothing there. Ooh, look at that. So you have Urania. Wait, never mind. It looked like it was 0, 0. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I see this alfeca a lot. On Moon, not so much though. But it is, yeah, it's within a degree. So Moon alfeca um is really about yeah, public honor. There can be some clashes with people, and also I forgot to say, like, the Mercury square Pluto can create kind of like a lots of intensity in the mind and lots of like kind of shadow in that area too. um but yeah, with Moon alphaca, it's like just really good. It's a really great star, so it's very good for just success and having very faithful friends, um and just being seen quite well, and as a Scorpion moon, like, that's what you want. um but there can be some enemies, but you shall triumph over them. So then with the Mercury and Pluto, which I didn't really talk about because it was kind of, I mean, what orbs do you, and some people say you only use like a 4-degree orb for that. But I would just say that like that can just influence one's thinking into kind of like a darker way. It can be really, really like um subject to criticism early on and just throughout life. Just really intense kind of like interactions with other people. Um, and it can make someone like very defensive, right? Like, and attract like very like strongly opinionated people, and just yeah, like make one's mind kind of like just a little bit of darkness. But it's very good for intellect, street smarts. Um, but it's like it's all about like learning once again to communicate the ideas in the right way and not draw conflict, essentially, right? Because it can be a little bit dictatorial. Um, so yeah, it just goes to like the whole like pushing opinions on other people thing. So yeah, it's just about, yeah, once again, like the evolution of like that more diplomatic style. Um, because there can be mental stress that comes from it, but it's not, such a tight aspected one. But it also speaks to like the transformation, not only of your emotional self and everything we talked about and just you in general, but also of your ideas and of your way of communicating. So that kind of is a nice way to kind of, yeah, speak, kind of close everything out. And then I just want to see one thing. Yeah, just a really good ability to communicate and influence people through that. Um, and yeah, definitely some magic in your family, kind of your bloodline. I just feel that heavy. So anyways, and yeah, I'd say midheaven in the 11th in Libra, it's like, really wanting to do something that, you know, speaks to a cause that you love. And with Venus in the 10th, it could relate to a career and something related to beauty, arts, um, something that brings more beauty to the world, or just harmony in general, where social skills are important. Um, but like, yeah, just a harmonious work environment, So having Venus in the career parts of your chart is very, very good. But yeah, definitely like also like a really deep dedication to the spiritual path and to that transformation, with Vesta in the 8th. And to like discovering the mysteries of life and all that stuff. And um it also gives like a great commitment to family, and to making things right. But once again, that goes back to the boundaries and just like the deep karma that's there. Anyways, that's it. I hope you enjoyed. So we'll hear back on the follow-up. Let me know if you want to add the current, like, and potentially the Saturn return. I always say that is the best way to go. That's what most people do. So just let me know. Either way, you have the follow-up. So take your time. You'll have this reading forever. And thank you so much. All right. Ciao.